Yes, sir. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak still continues. My name is Zulu Saburu. Karibuni sana. It's another Tuesday and it is another time to delve into the psyche, the mind. Okay, no, let me not scare you. To delve into different issues that revolve around the society, and it's a platform for us to talk. Hopefully you learn something, and as we talk ourselves we also learn something, so it's a learning process for all of us. I want to introduce, ladies first kabla niumizwe ni mama yangu. Hello Ruth Akinyeraburu, good to see you, thank you for watching. All right, so what to start over here, Roberta.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm super. Had a good week?
Yeah.
Awesome. And QT.
Wagwan. QT the girl child representative. What's an Ann?
QT.
You may discover saying
it hit me actually the other day too.
QT the girl
child. That
child.
is your social media.
I mean the girl child representative.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
a bad man thing.
And do your sister.
And CJ Atemo, karibu sana, welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm super.
All right.
We are almost there. Just almost there. League inaenda kuanza. Get ready. Prepare yourself psychologically. I don't know how your team is going to fare, but all is well. Well, today we want to talk about a very interesting topic. There's normally a lot of pressure, beg your pardon, when it comes to two things, especially in an African context, marriage and children. And now there are people who are coming out and saying, first of all, I'm not ready for any of that. Take your marriage car and take your children car, back it up and park it somewhere else. Mimi sitaki hiyo maneno. And of course it's been a lot of discourse. I mean, it's created a lot of discourse. People have been talking about it, and we have a few pointers. Got this from social media as well, and I guess we'll just start with the first one. That's one of the reasons that people give, and then we'll start talking about it. This is in regards to having children. So let's put up the first one. All right. In the science class, we learned about a study where they separated monkeys from their mothers at birth. The monkeys grew to be anxious and twitchy. When those monkeys had their own kids, their mothers didn't know how to care for them. I was raised horribly, so I don't know how to raise someone well. My parents had children, even though their parents abused them. My grandparents' parents probably also abused them. I'm just cutting off the cycle. And that's where it begins. Another person said that they are going through so much mental anguish themselves, they are not ready. And that, I don't know if people are ready to have the discussion of having the mental capacity to have children, because to start children does not need any mental, it's just biology. But now after the mental capacity, I don't know, let's start with you, CJ. What do you think about such a scenario where somebody argues that way?
I'm not sure that you'll ever be ready for that. Because for example, when you're dealing with a child, you're dealing with a human being who has very unique character, behavior, personality. They're people who settle down emotionally, probably, when they have children. They connect in a way that they have not known, because mothers will tell you that the love of a child and the love for the baby is quite so pure. So there are those that really connect, and even if they were not stable, or they thought they were not stable before, when they have a baby, they really change, and they tell you, this baby really changed me. They learned how to, to love, and they started learning how to be there for somebody who looks so innocent and helpless and depends on them. The awareness of their responsibility came upon them. They started seeing a sense of focus. Their life now was surrounded, was focused on the baby, and it changes them for good. So it's not something that you will say, I'm mentally prepared for a child, because you could think so. Then what happens when this child comes and they come with a condition you didn't prepare for? So I don't think that somebody really prepares.
You can never be prepared 100%.
Yeah.
Before I go to Roberta and the QT, there's an interesting perspective from a lady who wrote in. Let's take a look at it. It's quite something. I had this conversation also with Terry Mwikamba at one point. I'd love to, if I could be a father. Motherhood asks you to sacrifice everything from your body to your identity, your life, for your child. My mom almost died in childbirth. Sorry about that. I love my body, my financial freedom, my career, my relationship, and the cleanliness and silence of my home. I refuse to give any of that up for a child I know I would resent for upheaving my life. also giving postpartum depression hints there. But that is something that I've had women, especially in career spaces, argue. Roberta, they say, for example, that think about it this way: if I'm to have a child, I am virtually out of work for maybe what, 4 months in a year, 4 or 5 months. In those 4 months, if aka prospective young little youth, ajipata hapo hivyo, job yangu imeenda. If I have 2 of those children back to back, I'm out for cumulatively about a year.
Yeah.
What does that do to my career? What do you think?
It definitely affects you, but I think this happens in the occasion whereby you're a career-oriented person, and you'd love to have your career facing forward more than you'd love to have a family life or marriage. So I guess it lies in the kind of decision you make for yourself. But I totally agree with the last sentiment that you read out. I agree with everything, because by choice I have decided to be child-free, and most of my reasons are the same as the reasons that that person has given, which is I like my peace, I like my quiet, I like my freedom, I like my money, I'm selfish. And you see, before I
get selfish.
Yeah, because all these things, it's me choosing myself.
Okay.
I'm actively choosing not to be responsible for another human being. And that's okay. It's just that I feel like in the society that we're in, especially the African setting, we don't ask questions. We do things because people do them. It's like how maybe when you're cooking or when you're washing the dishes, unaweza jipata you wash the plates before you wash the cups. Ukiulizwa kwa nini, umezoea, you just do it every day. And then you'll find it's because you saw your mom washing the dishes like that, and your grandmother probably used to wash them like that.
Or so, washing all of them first,
yeah,
and then rinsing all of them.
Ama ukikula ugali na nyama, unakula nyama kwanza ndo ukule ugali na mboga. You know, just different things. There's a name for that, I forget what it's called. But it happens as well in the family setting and with kids and stuff like that. I feel like we choose to have kids because people have children. We don't ask ourselves like, okay, why do I really want a child? And mostly, unfortunately, when you ask most parents why they had kids, if it's not on accident, it's because people have kids. They have no solid reasons that are not selfish. They have no reasons beyond, you know, a child makes me happy. It's all about them. But you forget that a child is an individual with their own mind. This kid is going to come and become their own person, not an extension of you that you get to control. And if you're not okay with that, that's where you end up being in dysfunctional families. So I feel like, especially in the African setting, guys just have kids because people have kids, because at a certain age you're supposed to get married,
get a job, get married, have kids,
go to college. They don't really sit back and ask themselves, okay, what do I want? Do I want to selflessly take care of this kid financially? Because vituka basic, bare minimum, hizo ni basic needs. Si ati now it's a struggle, you have to feed it, you have to, no, hizo ni vitu basic. And we don't get to think about such things before we make such decisions. And unfortunately, a kid is not just until they turn 18 and then now they're off you. Being a parent is forever. So you have to think if you're ready to make this big commitment for the rest of your life.
All right, what do you think?
You can look at this issue from different perspectives.
Okay.
First, the religious point of it. Go ye fill the world.
Go ye therefore, multiply.
Hiyo kwanza tu ni pressure. Ukianzia tu hapo,
wewe mtu mmoja unajaza dunia.
The Bible says go ye. So kuna hiyo pressure. And then you look at the African perspective of it, like watoto ndio lazima ukue mama, lazima ukue na watoto.
And they say things like you know, huwezi ongea mbele ya wazee.
Huwezi ongea mbele ya wazee kama una mtoto. You're not a woman if you don't have a child. But remember, wenye tunaendelea kusema, mentally, physically, everything changes for a woman. Physically, body yako inaanza kuchange to immediately you're pregnant.
Yeah, there's that one as well. You can put it up as she talks. Yeah,
yes, physically you change. Mentally, mental state yako ina change. People start seeing you differently. Oh, you've added weight. Wow, I had a child in my body. I carried a whole human in my body. Emotional. Naona hiyo postpartum. Kitambo watu walikuwa naiona kama ilikuwa inaonekana kama ni stress, haufai kukuwa na stress, but inakupatia stress because everything changes. Look at the career point of it. Ukiwa kwa career, especially if you're a public figure, musician or something, yani our public figures, if you look at it that way, everything changes for you. Alafu tu kuna wale wase wanakuwa tu wamekutime hivi, wamekungoja tu hivi. Ukienda maternity leave, by the time urudi, everything has changed, probably your position. So by the time unapata hiyo ball, everything changes for you in the society. So if you choose not to have a child, unakuwa sasa wewe ni mtu mbaya. You're selfish, or you don't want to change your body, you don't have to have a child. But you know, it's your choice. At the end of the day, it's your personal choice if you want to have a child or not. So you can look at it from any perspective. Well, it's religion, a part of it, career point of it, society point of it. So it's up to you to decide if you want to take, because there's too much pressure. Mimi kwanza mimi madhe, hata najua saizi ana watch, madhe tu anashubaga kiniuliza, mtoto anakuja lini? Si upate tu, hata kama utaki kuolewa, si upate tu mtoi tu, at least wa kukibibi.
We need some noise in this house.
Unajua si poa kukaa peke yako kwa nyumba, hata ukizeeka, haitakuwa ni fiti wewe kukaa peke yako. But you see Willis, question is, QT, am I ready? Am I mentally ready? Am I physically ready? At this point of maybe my career, at this point of my religion point of it, you have to look at it from both perspectives. But at the end of the day, I keep saying, you have to choose yourself in everything that you do. Am I ready? If I'm not ready, then I will take my time. People are having kids at 40, Willis. Watu wanapata watoi at 40, but watu wengi ni wale, ukipata mtoi pia at 18, unaangaliwa vibaya. Ukipata mtoi at 40, unaangaliwa vibaya.
So there's no...
Asa unashindwa. There's no in between.
Without a job.
Alafu pressure. Unajua madem tunakuwaga na panic mode between 25 to 30. Hiyo ndio inakuanga panic mode. Like you want to have a kid, you want to have a job, you want to have a husband. So by the time you get to 30, ukishapita 30, pressure tu yupungua. I don't know what happens at 30, but there's something magical at 30. Una relax tu unacha pressure mob. So
pressure inapungua for some people. I know somebody who is
Willis.
A lot of anyway, CJ.
Yeah, there needs to be a rebuttal here.
Okay.
You know, first of all, the pressure for the lady to get a child is not from the society. It's her own biology. The physiology, I mean, every month she will ovulate. And there is that thing that is going to push her to the place of wanting to have a child. So even before we talk about society.
What do you call baby fever?
Yeah, before we talk about society, it's how she's wired as well. And then when we talk about just the African setup, you know, that you have children just for the sake of having children, I don't think that raising a child is all about money. The elements like values and elements like just being present over there. The people who didn't have money, but they've raised wonderful children. Then there are people who have concentrated all their money on raising probably one child, thinking it's costly nowadays to raise a child. Now that's pressure people put on themselves, that I'll have one child, I'll send them to the best schools, I'll send them to the best this and that. And then that child still turns out somehow, because even the school never takes the place of a parent in raising a child. So you'll see cases where somebody had probably 5 children, but they've all turned out well because the person instilled certain values in them. But I was going to raise the issue that QT is talking about, you know, the changes in the body and stuff. There are also people who have redefined pregnancy. And I was just checking out that very quickly. There are these athletes, like in 2014.
Oh, there was this lady, even in Kenyan content.
You know,
sorry.
They're going out and competing even in their pregnancy. So they're also redefining that it doesn't stop them from certain things. You could look at it from whichever side.
But when it comes to you know, because it's also a big point for couples, because they argue a lot, and mainly it's because the father wants 12 children like Jesus' disciples, and the mother wants 5. And sometimes, as much as you've said it's not about money, them folks, they cost some money.
Yes, they do, but it's not. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a
because you want to give them a good life.
Good is relative, Willis.
Okay.
Good does not mean that my son is spoiled or my daughter is spoiled. Good means that they have a fair place to go out over there. Now, most of the people who will actually talk about finances are people who are financially empowered. Most of the people who say it costs to have a child are actually doing well financially. So the money is not the problem for them. It's the career issue that they're battling with. The guys who have come from probably those humble backgrounds and stuff, they learn certain values we've talked about here before, like honesty, going out, working hard, you know, knowing you'll not get everything you want in life. Some of those guys turn out so very well. So yes, it does cost money, and it's not always the man who wants more children. There are cases where it is the woman who wants more children than the man would. So I don't think that it can just be a blanket accusation like that.
But you know, anyway, the money concept is quite something. Many people say it's expensive to have a child, and I think it's also because of the pressure, because we are living in a society where, and I saw, I mean, because she shared it, I guess I can talk about it. People do not know the struggles that even couples have, you know, trying to get a child. I saw, not that she's going through it, but I saw Gracie Krapa come out and say, for example, that, hey, stop, wachana kuuliza watu, immediately they got married, we, munapata mtoto lini, because, you know, you don't know what the story is behind that. Maybe, like they're saying, they've just decided, see, we don't want kids, you know, so it could be, there's a lot of pressure. And so, having said what you said, and I'm sure there's going to be some social media reaction. What made you particularly decide, you know, like you said, you like your space and all this. So what answer were you giving to the critics who are saying, no, lazima kuwe na mtoto? It is what you are born to do. That's why, in fact, they say the word woman is because the woo is the womb. So you need to have the baby.
So funny thing is, actually, I haven't got to have this conversation as openly as I have.
Okay.
This is, I think my parents are probably going to see this on here for the first time. Come on, wanangoja wajukuu. But for me to have a kid, there's certain things that I would need on deck. And as CJ was saying, I think we don't give the much importance and attention that having a kid actually needs. We glorify motherhood and having kids, and which makes us overlook all these other things like postpartum depression, etc, etc. So we just linger because, one, most of the people who are actually actively having these conversations are not women. And then the women who are having these conversations are not being as honest as they need to be, because again, if you say you absolutely hate motherhood as a mother, utaonwa ni kama you're selfish, you're a horrible person, when all these feelings are normal feelings that people have. And actually, when I found out we were having this discussion, I was very excited, because this discussion has been going on social media for a while. And there's been threads on Twitter where women are finally being honest about what pregnancy does to their bodies, how they feel about it, because when you think about pregnancy, if you've never been through it or if you've never been around,
and there's a lot they don't tell you, by the way.
Exactly, you just think it's this beautiful time where the woman is beautiful and glowing and happy, and then she has this baby who makes her even happier, and her life is just, but in reality, all these changes that are happening to your body are crazy. All these things, they affect your close relationships, they affect so many things in your life. And it's not just about career, it's about even your mental health and your emotional status. And even besides the physical part of it, it's really, really crazy, even on men, not just the woman.
That's another conversation that people should
have. For me, the conditions I'd require to have a kid, I feel like I have not reached them, and even if I reach them, what guarantee really do I have that my kid is going to turn out as just a nice model person? I do not have that guarantee. And the kind of conditions I have is that I believe kids don't really, my opinion is that kids wouldn't really thrive that well in a capitalist society. Kids kitambo, especially in the African setting, grew up in socialism, where they grew up in the society, they were taken care of by everyone, you know, a village, community. Yeah. Your shosho, your grandmother was actively in your life, because they know what it takes to take care of a kid. You know, it's a lot of work. It can't just be you and your man. Your man has to go to work from 8 to 5. You have to get back to work in 3 months. When are you going to spend all that time with your kid? So we're delegating all this things to other people, and we think it's okay, when in real sense, kids who grow, like the tweet we saw about the monkey. Right. Yeah, kids need that love. They need attention. They need wholesomeness, not just taking them to a nice school. Ama having money to pay for things, you have to be present. You have to take care of your kid. When are you going to do that when we're in a capitalist society where you have to wake up and show up and do things to get the money to take care of this same child that you have to be there for?
What if somebody argues that on the flip side that it's been done? Like there are people who I believe I kind of turned out okay. Shout out to my parents. But you know, people will argue. They will argue with you and say that, but it's been done in the same capitalist society. There, I mean, you turned out okay.
Like okay, that's something I like to say. Right. I turned out okay, but did I really? I grew up in a situation where I had both of my parents. I went to good schools. They had money. They took care of me. But at 25, I have to reparent myself emotionally. I'm doing all this shadow work about childhood traumas that nobody knew about because I turned out okay. If people see
turning out
me,
okay again is relative.
It's relative, you know. I have all these other issues that I have to work on, and it's because my mom wasn't present during this time because she had to work. My dad did this. I felt neglected as a child at this point. You see all these things, and it's not things we do to our kids intentionally. It's because genuinely, if I stay home and take care of you all day, we will not eat.
Well, I think, and I need to bring perspective as well. I think
having 3 children.
They're more than that.
Well, okay. Forgive me.
Sorry. But I think what is also happening to the generation that is coming up now is that there's a lot of information and a lot of awareness that certain things that people would just pass are now becoming mirror moments. And that's why Roberta will say, I had to reparent myself at 25, because then you begin to feel, okay, so this was not done to me, and this was not done to me. So you'll have a lot of that conversation right now. But the truth is, she turned out okay. She turned out okay. But
she's having to,
yes,
you know, tighten some.
And generally, it now comes to the element of our expectations around life. No matter how much we put into life, we're going to have these challenges, we're going to be stressed, we're going to be strained. Even if you're single and alone, and you have all the money to go to all the holiday spots, you will also have your own kind of pressure that you deal with, because as she says, we are social beings. Some of the problems that we are addressing here are urban problems, because in the rural areas, they don't have to, you know, go away for like 14 hours. They're not stuck in traffic. They walk. Kids are still kids being raised by the whole village. You can walk into this boma and you will know about the kids in the next place. So there are still people who are practicing that. And part of the frustration now is an irony, because we have chosen a different kind of life than we complain about not having the life we have forsaken. We have chosen
to say that again.
We have chosen a different kind of life, like individualistic. I want to think about me, and then complain about not having the social support. Yet we have chosen that. We have gated our communities. We have cut off people from our lives. We have said, this is my kid, don't touch my kid. We say, don't come to my house without an appointment. We are the ones who have structured ourselves.
My space, my area.
Then now when we are in that particular space, we begin to realize there's something that we are missing, which is now that community, that sense of community. And it's stressing us as well. As I always love to say, we are conflicted culturally. We are conflicted. We are Africans when it is convenient. Then we are westernized when it is convenient.
There is a conversation we'll have with you off camera about the church in that regard.
Kitty wants to say something.
No,
yes, Kitty, go ahead.
Willis, let me bring this perspective of people also forget that the physical aspect of it is that women are going through so much when it comes to healthcare. When you look at it, most women are going through endo. You find a woman.
Right,
we have so many. Problems, there's so many problems. Some I can't even mention, but we're going through so many issues in terms of healthcare. kuna ngori mob ziko hapo. So we don't really talk about them. So when you decide, okay, I'm not going to have a child because of this and this and this, I don't want to come out and say, for example, I have endo. I don't want to come out and say, for example, I have this issue that is going on through my body. So I can decide not to have children. Secondly, I can decide, why not adopt a child? But when you decide to say, I'm going to adopt a child, now that becomes another issue. It's not the same. You're not going to love this child the same way you're going to love your own kid. There's something about, I get that from my friends a lot. They say there's something about loving your own child. There's something about you giving birth to a child and loving them. But at the end of the day, Willis, if you can't have a child, because of there's so many reasons why you can't have a child.
Yeah.
And don't succumb to pressure, because at the end of the day, I can decide at 40, I will go adopt a child, and I will love that child, and even love, just give them the same love that a mother would. It doesn't make me any less of a mother, you know. But people in this society, we have so many, they've said so many structures, like the way he's saying individualism. It's not about, they call it being selfish. They say it's selfish when you don't want to have babies.
And it's actually, I've learned, because I've said it so many times, I've been to therapy.
Yes.
And it's okay to be selfish sometimes.
Yes, it's okay to think about QT.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly, it's okay to think about QT. What does QT want? What does QT, if I cannot handle the pressure of if I cannot handle the pressure of just getting pregnant, you have to look also at the aspect of the father of this child. I cannot just go and have, just get pregnant with just anyone.
Tom, Dick and Harry.
Yes, you have to think also about the father of that child, because when you're a single mom, it's a different, it's a different setup for that child, and it ends up, as she says, trauma, childhood traumas. Our children go through so much that we don't even know. Yes, you're a mom, you love your child, or you're a single dad, you love your child, you give them the best, but there's that one thing you also have to look at. Before you get pregnant, you have to look at all those things, and we're never ready for anything, Willis, and we never plan for our lives. It just, whatever happens, happens. You deal with it when it comes, right? So nikidecide mimi kama QT nataka kuadapt mtoi ama nataka kukaa peke yangu, there's a reason why. I have my own personal reasons, because ndapata mtoi huku ndani na die na lia mazen niko na stress na mtoi, but people don't know. Watu wananiona, oh, she's a mother, so why not nikae kama venye niko saizi, nikae tu na peace yangu, nikae nikiwa happy. If it makes me happy, it makes me happy. I know you can.
let me ask this. We have about 10 minutes left. I want you to send us a feedback if you can, real quick. This is the question you're asking. Do you think it's okay not to want to get married or have children? Do you think it's okay not to want to get married or have children? The SMS line is 22422. You can send your SMS. Remember, we have 10 minutes, folks. And then the hashtag to use on Twitter is, the hashtag is Daybreak. I know we've talked a lot about children, but the other place where people get a lot of conflict, and there's still so many more tweets. I don't know what Lindsay you suggest to do. All right, let's take a look at maybe one more reason why for childbirth. And then somebody says, have you seen the world out there? I mean, several generations have already looked at serious looming problems and said, but the children are our future. They'll fix it. Within my lifetime, I've seen climate change go from global warming and very minor changes to once-in-a-century environmental events happening every year. It's time to stop making more people until we can fix the problems we are causing. Let's go to the next one, just because of time. So there's that one who says, already kuna mashida. And this is what Borda was saying. Complete lack of a support system. You know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we have no village anymore. Unless you happen to live close to family, no one is around to help you, and you're on your own. And then the last one, I guess, because that one we talked about, I now live with a disability, which is another thing QT has talked about. I've seen my best friend struggle with healthy pregnancy. I think a pregnancy would have me on irreversible damage and pain and would be unable to care for a baby afterward. I would severely struggle as I am right now due to chronic fatigue and chronic pain. I wouldn't be surprised if I became wheelchair bound. That's another reason QT talked about that. And here's another one. I just have no desire. I don't hate kids. I love my nieces and nephews and have a great time being an influential part of their life. However, that means that I also see how difficult and stressful it is to raise kids and understand that people really love and it's worthy to them, but that's just what me. And finally, and lastly, my life is complete without children. Plus, I'd just rather stick to cats. All right.
That's me.
So those are some of the reasons that people have given. There's enough problems in the world already. Let's not add people to already broken world. But when it comes to
not adding people is part of
the problem. You know, there are countries that are paying people to have kids.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Because they have realized
that
they'll be wiped out. You know, so they actually,
Japan or China is one of them, yeah.
And some of the European countries as well.
Yes.
Because they've got the aging population and now they're just trying to get people to come in and they'll pay you for having kids. They understand the importance of humanity, you know. So when we talk about things like the strains that would come and the dangers that would come. I think if you have a husband or a partner that you communicate with well, they would also understand. If you're being threatened either mentally or health-wise, I think they would understand. It's a conversation. So that cannot be a blanket thing that we throw out there. It's the same as saying, because we have people who are having emotional breakdowns and meltdowns at workplace, so we should not work. Just because there's mental stress and there are higher chances of people having mental illness at the places of work because the KPIs, you know, the pressure is higher over there, so we shouldn't work to keep our mental peace. How are you going to eat? It's just a matter of finding out, how do you mitigate? If I'm going to have workers and they're having all these emotional issues, do I bring in a therapist? Do I find a way of creating the work-life balance for them? How do I mitigate around this? So we can't use that as a blanket. It's got to be a case by case. There are people who physiologically, they are prone to have trouble if they get pregnant. So that is a different case. It is selfish to get into a relationship with a man who said he wants to start a family. Then within that, you say, I don't want to have kids. That is something you need to communicate, so that if the person wants to have kids, you don't want to have kids, then you just know, look, this can't go on because I wouldn't want to have kids. Or if you want to adopt, you communicate that. If your partner is okay with it, then you can do that. It would also be selfish to have a partner who doesn't understand that you would be at risk if you got pregnant. So it's a matter of case by case. You know, if I think that my wife's life is going to be endangered by her getting pregnant, it would be very selfish for me to say, no, you must have this. It's a case by case thing, Willis.
Okay, so you've seen all of the other reasons as well. And I'm trying to understand both sides in this case. So I think, and I could be wrong, CJ said that, you know, there are things that you can, if it's mental health, you can bring in a therapist. If it's physical, in terms of you might, you know, healthcare, then that's a different case as well. But I guess what you're arguing that it's also okay just to have a choice, Miss Taki.
Exactly. All these solutions being created are for people who want to have kids. You get, if I'm at risk of what, if a therapist is brought in, fine, it will help my solution. But there's people who genuinely do not want to have kids. And until I get to hear a reason from someone who has kids, why they that is not selfish, that is not about them, that has nothing to do with, oh, my kids fulfill me, my kids make me, a reason that is genuinely about why you want to be responsible for another human being, then that is when I shall be taking like suggestions. You know, that's when I'll be like, oh, okay,
give you one.
that makes sense. You know, it won't change my mind, but you know, I'll be like, okay, what? Because most people who have kids, like I said, if it's not on accident, hata mimi najua nilikuwa probably an accident.
It was celebration.
Yeah, ilikuwa kulikuwa
but there's
na
no
party.
accident when you look at it.
No, what I mean is,
imagine there's no accident because you would have robbed us of all these nuggets you're giving us now. So Mungu alisema ni sawa. Like most firstborns aren't really planned. It just happens, which is okay. Honeymoon
there's
babies.
No problem with that. You know, there's no problem with that, especially if you want a kid and you're expecting a kid. I just say that if you actively want a child, please do it for the right reasons. You can, like he said, you can never be prepared. You know, life just happens. You can get pregnant and then akuje disabled. So now what then? You're planning for a healthy baby, so now what next? You know, you're never really prepared. Healing is not linear. You heal every day. You work on your childhood traumas every day. I could be actively in therapy till I'm 50 and still not be ready for a kid. Or I could just decide next year, I'm gonna pop up pregnant next year. And
we'll be like, Roberta!
I've changed my mind. So you see, life happens, but yeah. I'd prefer if all these solutions are reserved for people who actively want to participate in the childbearing. And as for people who are not ready for marriage or for some reason they do not have a kid, even if they don't have a reason, please just respect them. Try to be understanding of people's opinions, especially if it's not harming you. If it's something somebody wants for themselves, like Cutie said, you know, you could be sick and you just don't want to tell people you're sick. You know, like, especially if you're a public figure, people have these expectations of you, you know, you got married, did you what?
We've seen it even, you know, the pressure that comes with it. Yeah. I honestly think, well, women generally who you know, get pregnant and, you know, just shout out to all women. But sometimes I feel like it's so much pressure on the woman, because look at even abroad, Cardi B. She was shooting videos when she was pregnant because she knows any record label in America.
Yeah.
Yo, I need to meet my targets.
Because she has to do it. You know, and
but it's
crazy.
Something.
We don't have this knowledge and awareness that we require in order to deal with kids and just marriage and everything. And like I said, we do things because people have been doing. Because ulizaliwa, mamako aliza, so mamako anaitisha wajukuu, inaendelea. But when you think about it, it reaches a point where this is where abusive parents are formed. Like you start resenting your kids. You'd even hang out with your friends and they're constantly grumpy because they can't do simple things like stay in all day and watch TV, or stay in bed and just not care about anyone. They have to be. And it's okay to not want to do anything. It's okay to want your space. It's okay to want to use your money on yourself. You must. Hizi vitu zote, just be okay with your decision. If you don't want a kid, sawa. If you want a kid and you're actively looking for a kid, yeah. And also, just to add on what Cutie said, it is my personal opinion that if you cannot love your adopted child in the same way that you love your own biological child, I just feel like then you shouldn't have kids altogether, because a child is a child. You can't say I love my biological kid more than this kid that I adopted, because
you're mixing, right? If you had a biological kid and you want to add, so you're adopting.
Yeah, like
not like this is you only have an adopted child.
Even if you have only an adopted child, because what would you be comparing it to if you do not have your own biological child? Then I guess it's just societal pressures that are pushing you towards, maybe you wanted a kid so bad, so you're being pushed to make these decisions. A child is a child. It's like me saying, because I do not want to have kids and CJ wants to have kids and has kids or whatever, that now I cannot respect him. Why would my respect for him be conditional on our decisions? You know, he can have his opinions, I can have his opinions, and I can still respect him. It's the same way with having a kid. This kid deserves love regardless of where they come from. Whether ulimwokota kwa barabara, kwa pipa, ama aliachwa, ama ni niece wako, ama ni kazini yako. Because the point you're starting to differentiate at, this one I'll just love them a bit. I'll reserve my real love for my biological child. Do you really think you need to have kids then? If you cannot just be unconditional with your love, attention, respect. Because something I've really noticed with kids is that most of us, or rather let me just say most parents, they just end up regretting the decisions they made later, which is completely normal.
Kids or just
they made for themselves.
Okay.
Like actively having sex without protection, that's a decision you make. A kid is a possible consequence of your decision. So then now it's 20 years in, you have a kid who is depressed, or maybe they do not want to go to school, and maybe you had this life for them, you know, you're like, huyu ni kimza.
Not wanting to go to school.
Aende shule, apate job, aanze nini, and then your kid becomes their whole own person. They just want to become a mechanic.
It's interesting. One day we'll talk about that. I know time has gone, but I'll ask CJ a question one day.
So Willis,
CJ, I have a lot of questions for you. Good thing we have many shows, God willing. We'll talk about most of them as well. I know time is quickly leaving. We didn't even talk about the marriage. I guess we'll talk about that on another, because that's a whole different ball game. You know, people who say I don't want to get married, like, how? It's a whole different ball game. But QT, you mentioned something about the healthcare issues, right? So for those ones, do you think, like, if you have been proven by, you know, it could be circumstance, maybe a doctor may come here, you know, you can't have kids, so then there is the adopting. Do you think that would be?
That's an option, because I can say with, let me give a good example, Gabrielle Union. Yes. She almost killed herself trying to prove a point, getting a child. But that's when the husband,
she had 8 or 9.
So that's when the husband came in and said, no, you need to stop. You need to stop. You cannot kill yourself just because you want to prove a point. So I'd say this, don't kill yourself, whether it's marriage, whether it's a child, do not kill yourself mentally, emotionally, or physically because you want to fit. I don't want to fit in. I wasn't born to fit in. I want to be myself. I want when kids are growing up, they say, I want to be like you, T, making your own decisions, doing your own things. So whether it's healthcare, you cannot have, you desire to have children, but you can't have because of health reasons. Whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's your own personal decision, I should be comfortable with that. And even if the society, they judge us every day. Yep. You wake up one day, you do something, they judge you. So marriage and kids, that's a lifetime decision. I don't want to be stuck in a decision because I thought, oh my God, my friends, my mom, I'm a public figure, people will think badly about me. So for me, I'm not going to kill myself having a child or getting into marriage because people want me to. I have my own personal reasons, so we'll get there when we'll cross that bridge.
When you get there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, CJ, your final comments as well.
I'm looking forward for the day when we have a discussion like this and all our examples are local. Because this is where our cultural conflict comes in. That most of the people who shape our opinions are people who live in a very different kind of a culture.
I would name them, but I don't know if I get sued. I know a couple.
So, and that is where sometimes we get complications. Right? We get complications around all of these things. I'll say, look, if you have valid reasons why you wouldn't want to get married or have a child, good enough. But still, children remain to be a blessing with all the challenges that come. Every day you wake up is a risk. You know, you risk yourself getting out of the house, getting on the road, or crossing the road, or getting into a matatu, going to work. You just risk. You risk getting into a restaurant and ordering for food. You could have food poisoning or something. Everything we do every day is a risk. The joy of it is overcoming all those challenges every day. You put money into a business, you're not very sure it will turn out the way you want it to be. So I would say, look, if you want to have children, it's a good thing. Don't let just the issues like of money hold you back, because there are many people who have been raised without so much money. Some money came along the way. The firstborn was born when there was no money. The secondborn came in when there's a bit more money. And those people still turned out all right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk about, I know some of you are eagerly waiting for, we'll probably talk about it next week or the week after that. But interesting conversations. I guess the reason why we have these conversations on Tuesday is to help you kind of have them yourselves. Maybe it's somebody, it's a conversation you've always wanted to have, but you just don't know how to bring it up. So now this gives you an opportunity to bring it up. It gives you an opportunity to learn the different diverse views, and ultimately it comes down to your choice. It's all up to you. Nobody's going to hold a gun to you and say, now you must have a child. Whether ni pressure ya nani, whether ni mama yako, baba yako, really it's up to you. And that's the most beautiful thing about life, is that it is up to you to choose. And that's what it's all about. You make a decision, live with it, and and even if you made a decision and you regret it afterwards, that's why we always say there's also help. Go talk to somebody, there's therapy to see. Just make sure if you do have a child, don't take it out on the child, because now you're like, you didn't want to have the child to begin with. And also, special message request, if you're watching this and you know for a fact, kama we ni Charlie, you're a dude, na we ni deadbeat, umewacha mama ya mtoto, bebe msalaba ama mzigo ya mtoto peke yake. You're watching this for a reason. Call them, talk to them, reconcile, be in that baby's life. It doesn't mean murudi pamoja, but be present, as I think Roberta and everybody has said, be present there. That is the message that was meant to happen for you today. So if you are kawa nasikia, it's not by accident. Go now, take care of that child. But at the end of the day, like we said, when it comes to having a baby, when it comes to getting married, it's up to you. God loves you, and that will never change. Successful people look like you. And in a few weeks, we will see the great Manchester United. Peace and love.